topic and some of the scenarios that a lot of people are dealing with today.
Right. And that's why we're here. So what we did is we essentially wanted to go ahead and reintroduce the platform to those individuals that have been following us or interacting with us over the last however long, year, 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be. And essentially to just let you all know that we are still here, we're still working. And the best part of what it is that we're currently doing is we are moving forward with those individuals from a private perspective, which is, why you may not see a lot of content out there from us on those public platforms, depending on which platform you're connecting with us from. Just know that we are still here, and we have basically established a network of individuals that are all moving forward from a private perspective. So, those of you that follow us out there, like on YouTube or those other platforms, just know that we are still here. I've seen people go and comment underneath our video saying, "Did the government get her?" And it's funny to me that people think that is actually kind of funny, but it is what it is. But we're still here. We are still doing the work, talking to people, seeing where people are, etc. So Definitely. Here this evening, just in case you all do not know, my name is Madiva, and I am joined by Mikael, who's going to be facilitating tonight's call. We're not going to keep you all very long, but we just wanted to check the pulse of the community to see where people are and what are some of the issues that you all are dealing with currently. All right. So feel free to let us know.
And this group is going to be growing real fast. We've had other groups in the past, hundreds and hundreds of people in the groups. And this group will exceed any other group that we've had in the past. Because not only do we have more information when it comes to all these different issues people are dealing with out here, more and more people are looking for answers that they have not been able to find on social media. In some of these groups, everybody's just doing the same thing and they're still not getting any satisfaction or remedy. So you eventually will find us and you'll find satisfaction. You'll find remedy. You'll find answers to resolve your situations and scenarios. So we always knew this was going to happen. It's happened in the past. People have heard a lot of what we've shared in the past, and they have definitely followed us as well. So what's the topic this evening?
The topic this evening is trust administration and claims. Trust administration and claims, so we're always looking to see how people are perspective, right? I don't hear a lot of educators out there talking too much about trusts. We wanted to bring forth the topic to let people know that standing and capacity is very important in whatever process that you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's credit repair or if you're fighting a repossession, whatever the case may be. It's important to understand that everything that you do should be see what it is that you're asserting and why, and you have to establish yourself from an equitable perspective. You could try to fight things statutorily, but it takes a lot to fight in their arena. So you have to always establish yourself with a higher position from a higher perspective, so that you can assert a higher claim. Your claim has to always be higher than that of the legal title. You got to always come higher because their legal title is subordinate to your equitable title every single time, but you have to know how to put those packages together.
Yeah, and a lot of people are putting these packages together, and when you look at it and go back, you really want to have one or two other people to look at your documents. You don't want to go home, do all your documents for whatever the issue is, submit your documents without one or two other eyes looking at it. Because if only your eyes see this packet of pages of documents and you submit that in, you're going to have a problem because you're going to find yourself, I see it all the time, you will contradict yourself in the same document. And once you contradict yourself in that document, you lose your positioning. And you definitely don't have any enforcement on the table whatsoever. And so you give them an out of ignoring this document because you just contradicted yourself. I see it all the time. I got to go back and talk to some people and say, listen, you contradicted yourself right here in this statement on line 2, page 2, and then on line 6 on page 5. You contradicted yourself. You are commingled. You are double-minded. And you lose whatever it is you're trying to gain.
You know what it is, too? Part of that is that people don't have competent trustees around them. And so when they're fighting something or they're involved in some sort of legal process, they don't have people around them that can read their paperwork, or they haven't devised a system where their computer can read their paperwork to them so that they can deal with minor errors like spelling and grammar and all of that type of stuff. And see, when your paperwork has those types of errors, they're still looking at you like you're an incompetent minor for the most part, right? Yeah. You have to know how to put your paperwork together and put those disclaimers out there to make sure that they are paying attention to the substance and not the error. Because if listen, we just had somebody send us, and Mikhail can attest to this, we just had somebody send us a case that they were working on. They specifically said that it took them 60 hours to put this together, right? If you have a scenario where you're up against a deadline and you're putting something together and you're burning the midnight oil, so to speak, there's gonna be errors. It's automatic. You're a human. There's gonna be human errors. So if you don't have anyone to cover you, that can be an issue. And this is why we always say you have to have competent people around you that you can trust. Have to. Because those types of errors can determine the difference between a success or a win. It really can.
So, it's going to be important that you realize you cannot win by yourself. You need a team. Even in statutory, how many attorneys do you see standing around Trump? Do you think he's going up against his adversary by himself? Really? Really? And you think you're going to go up against your adversary by yourself? I'm going to do my documents. I'm going to submit this. And no, I know people who have submitted documents and they submitted documents and filed. Next thing you know, IRS says you owe $253,000. Well, what you mean? No, you filled out your paperwork wrong because you did it by yourself. No one was there with you saying, let me check over here and make sure this is right. No, you did it by yourself, and now you're upset with the world because the IRS says you owe them over $200,000. What in the world? What's wrong with you? And then you're mad at everybody.
I think, right. I think that if a lot of what people struggle with in terms of their paperwork, it really is foreseeable. It's foreseeable. Um, the system is set up to violate you. That's just how their systems are set up, right? So you know that you're going to get certain types of responses even before a case is initiated. You just will. Um, and so you should have already planned, properly planned prior to the initiation of any scenario on what you're going to say, what you're going to do, what their anticipated responses are going to be. You should already know how they're going to respond. And if you don't know, use your tools and resources um, to find out how they're going to respond, because typically the lenders always respond in a similar manner. They just do, right across the board for the most part, unless you have some sort of extenuating circumstance or something like that that's going to yield a different type of response. 99.9% of the time, they will always respond in the same way. And so your paperwork should already be pre-prepared for those responses, right? Your stuff should already be ready to go, but most people fail to plan, in which that means that they're planning to fail because they're unprepared. They're unprepared.
So most people are trying to go UCC this, UCC that, statutory this, statutory that, and that places you right there where they want you in the legal fiction, and there's no way for you to ever win. I don't care what documents you put together. If you are standing statutory, legal fiction this, legal fiction that, you lose every single time. There's no way for you to win in their jurisdiction. And so you have to understand that and learn from the people who made the mistake of doing that and say, hold on, I can't win in this jurisdiction. What jurisdiction can I win in? It's the jurisdiction that you are supposed to be in at all times. From the moment you came into this world, you were in that jurisdiction. But you got pulled out of your jurisdiction and you stepped into a legal fiction jurisdiction, became a slave, and they controlled you, and you were okay with that. You became a debtor, and you were okay with that. Now when they come after you, pressing you for this, for that, now you want to holler, fight, and be an adversary. And then you lose, and you get mad. Whose fault is that? It's your fault. You allowed all of this. Now I understand that there's a period of time where you have to start to study and learn how to conduct business. The best book you can ever have is scripture. That's the best book you can ever have. Everything you see going on in law, courts, business, it's all in scripture. So that should be the foundation right there, because everything in business and law and court, it came from scripture. They just tweaked it, changed it, rearranged it. So that's important to lean on that scripture for a foundation. Now, when we look at a trust, that's going to be important in any scenario that you're facing. You have to incorporate trust in those scenarios. If not, you can't win. Your only way to win, to overcome your enemy, is from a trust perspective.
Right. And part of the reason why we say from a trust perspective is because you have to be protected and insulated in everything that you do. When you begin to assert yourself from a certain position, if there's no protection in place, you're yielding to their authority and their adjudication and rulings as it relates to the matter at hand, right? And so I'm looking at a comment here on TikTok, and someone says business is what they have jurisdiction over. Now, I don't know exactly what the gentleman is speaking about when he says a business as it relates to what we're speaking about here, but each, and I don't disagree in terms of the business is what they have jurisdiction over. So if you're out here conducting business as a statutory fiction, then yes, they do have jurisdiction over that entity. Absolutely. Right. And so there has to be a separation that takes place between you, the living soul, and the statutory fiction, the legal construct that they have created to communicate with you. You know, they pulled you out of the private into the public to do commerce, and they have created that conduit. So your main goal should be to take control of that conduit and use it to your benefit, not to theirs. So when you say commerce is equal to commercial activity, okay, I hear you. This is what the gentleman is saying, right? It does equal commercial activity, but you still need to have a conduit in order to conduct that commercial activity. Should not be stepping directly into that activity as the fiction, and that's where they catch you, right? And he's saying that you only have control over what you create. That is entirely not true. When you're dealing in equity, you will quickly come to find that you can control what they have created, but from a higher perspective, right? So that, to me, it demonstrates a limited understanding on that matter. You can control it, control something that you did not create. When you're dealing with the beneficial owner controls any and everything that it touches. So even, you know, a lot of people do say that, well, how can I control the DSS individual or the fiction if I didn't create it? The answer is equity and trusts. It can be controlled.
And that's what you want to do. You
that's what
definitely
you
need
want to
to
do.
understand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you gotta
most people
understand
are
that.
not talking about that. They're not
Right.
talking about it from that perspective. And as long as you don't have that conversation, incorporate that in what you're doing, you're going to keep losing. And it's crazy because the people around you who are in your circle are doing the same thing you're doing. And you're like, okay, well, it didn't work for me. Why are you going to do the same thing I did? Try something else, you know. And a lot of people have lost, everything. It started all over before they realized the mistakes they made and what they should have done in the beginning, you know. But that's what's happening. You know, I know a lot of people have lost their homes. You know, they're in the hospital now because they had a heart attack. You know, and the house is gone. What are they going to do now? They are homeless and they're in the hospital.
Right.
You know.
So the beauty about equity and trust technology is that you can time travel, right? So even if you're dealing with the scenario of a repossession or a foreclosure after that property has been lost, equity allows you to go back and claim it. Trust technology allows you to go back and claim it from a beneficial owner perspective, right? If you go online and you look up the definition of beneficial owner, it speaks to enjoyment and use of property while the title is being held by another. The beneficial owner is the party that can control the matter from a higher perspective. The beneficial owner is the party that can yield disbursements not only back to themselves, but equal value to the opposing party, meaning this: they get what they want, you get what you want, and everybody's happy, right? And that's essentially the positioning that you want to have that. We're not coming in to contend. You never, ever, ever step into a matter to contend or argue. That's not the position. No, you have to do things in a way where there is no controversy, where you're literally stepping into the matter to settle it so that everybody gets what it is that they are looking for, right? Now, this person on TikTok made a comment that said that they control the business. That's partially true. They control the fictional entities that is being created and registered with the Secretary of State. Okay, I get it from that perspective, right? I got that part. But when you're coming in as a competent adult, operating out of your age of majority, and you're coming in to conduct business with the adversary to yield a specific intended result, they can't control that. That's controlled by equity and trusts, right? Depending on how you have yourself set up. So you have to really think these things through, fully and deeply think these things over and devise a strategy that's going to compel performance on the part of the lender or whoever it is that is on the other side of that case, right? You got to think this stuff through. So I get where the gentleman is coming from. Trust me, I understand, but it's much deeper than what a lot of people think. It just goes deeper. No, it really, really does. I understand where you're coming from. Trust me, I do. And a lot of what this person is saying is fueled by the information that's already out there, that's been out there for 10 plus years, right? Right, it comes down to capacity, it really does. So we gotta think deeper about this stuff and not just think that they control everything. You can come in from a higher position all day, every day, but your paperwork has to be tight and it has to be set up to a point where they cannot adjudicate or place any further legal determination what it is that you submitted. You're coming in from a higher authority, and that is a real thing. This is real. This is not theory. It's really not. It's not theory. This is real. You have to come in from a higher perspective. You have to remove their ability to place any further legal determination on your paperwork. And then you have to enforce that. You have to be able to enforce it, right? You have to. So these are some of the things that people really need to think about, but there is a limited understanding out there. It's just overall, generally, there's a limited understanding out there because most people are operating as secure party creditors, American nationals, state nationals. They're operating as Moors, whatever the case may be. That is the underlying title or position or capacity that most people are operating up, and they're seeking remedy by way of the codes. You can't beat them at their game utilizing the codes. And even if you get a win or a dismissal, just remember that there is still something that has yet to be claimed on the other side of that ledger. There's still something else there that was left on the table.
That's very true. People today in social media are celebrating a win when they have a dismissal. That is not a win. That is a loss. There are things that you should be doing, when it comes to a court scenario, and a dismissal should not be your focus, because there's other things going on that court case that you should be focused on. There are securities associated with the court case. There are securities associated with any account that you've had from 18 up until now. Court cases, traffic tickets, accounts, credit card, loans, car, home. They all have a CUSIP number. They all have securities associated with that account. And so if you have a court case, you got to understand that there's securities on the table. You got a dismissal. That means you walked away, you abandoned 25, $50 million in securities on one court case, and you got a dismissal and you think you won something? You lost. You lost big time. And that's the suffering that we deal with, and why we can't really see just how bad we really are. You know, so when it comes to those type of scenarios, there's more than you realize on the table.
It definitely
Anybody
is.
have any questions?
And yes, questions, because we've been talking for 30 minutes straight. Does anybody have any questions, either on TikTok or here in the Telegram group? What questions do you all have?
Some situations that you're dealing with right now, and I know most people do, and you may be trying to figure it out on your own. You want to go pull this information and pull that information. You're going to figure this out by yourself. I'm telling you now, too many people, I'm talking millions, have tried to figure this stuff out by themselves. And then they got in a group and everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's eating a banana. Ain't nobody getting no satisfaction and no remedy, but we all here together. Misery loves company. And if someone in that group has not got some satisfaction and got some remedy, got some win, it doesn't help anybody in there to keep doing the same thing, going around the same circle, chasing your tail. You got to find the right people that have wins, that have overcome some things. And that's what's important. Yes. But you got to be part of a team that you can work with. Well, if you're in a group, that's not a team. That's just a group of people. It's not a team. Why? Because you're not taking your documents necessarily and saying, hey, I want you to be my trustee. Look over my documents. I want you to be my trustee as well. Look over my documents. I'll look over your documents. I'll be your trustee. Let's work together to figure this out. Someone has to figure it out, and a lot of people have. You just don't know.
Right. That's key. There's definitely a mindset shift that needs to take place, because many people are plagued with stress and anxiety as a result of some of the issues that they're going through. So when they get a dismissal, that gives it's like a false narrative, or it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a false flag, so to speak, and it's an illusion of victory, because you're relieved from that stress or anxiety that scenario created. It just sort of kind of went away. But they're literally making money hand over fist. The court operates as a financial institution. It is a bank. It has an EIN number. It has a DUNS number. It is a business, a functional financial institutional business, right? And so all of the bonds and all of the securities and everything that flows through those courtrooms on a daily basis go up into the millions, if not billions of dollars per year. All right. And so you have to ask yourself a question. How do I go and get my piece of the pie? How do I do this in a way where I'm not leaving money on the table, not leaving securities on the table? How do I get my part and what's due to me, and what they have created or monetized as a direct derivative of my name, my signature, the SS individual? How do I get my piece? Those are the questions that people really need to start asking. Not how do I get this case dismissed, or how do I get a continuance, or how do, those questions, those pacifying questions that people are asking, or things that they're doing just to make it go away, is not good enough anymore. This is the reason why the world is the way that it is, because people have they've stepped away from their inheritance. They've left it on the table, and they have chose to take a route that is pacifying them so that they can have a easy life or an easy outcome. It's time for us to step up and be encouraged. It's time for us to move forward as the beneficial owner heirs that we are, and begin to claim that inheritance that was given to us by the Most High, you know, and express that in your paperwork, right? When you're coming from a higher perspective, a higher jurisdiction, got to be able to express that thing in your paperwork. You're not the debtor unless you act like a debtor. You're not the minor unless you engage in minor related activities. You are not the minor unless you show them that you're incompetent. When somebody goes to file a court case, and if they don't have the money to file the case, they check that little box. What's that box on there? It says indigent. Indigent. When you're going in and filing a court case and you're checking that box saying that you're indigent, what do you think? How do you think they're looking at that? How are they classifying you in their system? It doesn't look good, I can tell you that. So we have to figure out another way. Got to figure out another way. And you cannot do this by yourself. You need competent trustees around you. You really, really do. It's tough, but there's always a way to overcome, you know, and it could be the smallest thing that you insert into a court case to shut it down. And when you know how to hand out those fiduciary instructions to the other side of the matter, that's when you're in control. When you are in an offensive posture and not always in a defensive posture, that's when you know that you've stepped into your adult majority, age of majority capacity, operating from a trust perspective as beneficial owner heir, right? And you're getting some things done. Can't do that using their laws, their codes, and their statutes. It's not, it's tough. And you got to bring the spiritual component into this too, everyone. You have to, because you may be very well versed in the code, the rules of civil procedure. You may be very well versed in court procedure, court etiquette, all of that stuff, right? But that's not your stuff. That's their stuff. That's the stuff that they have put in place to control you. And so you're going to go in there and play the same game, and you're going to engage in necromancy and dealing in their courts using their codes, knowing that is wrong, you know, and that's where a lot of people get jammed up because they don't realize that there's a spiritual aspect that goes along with this too.
Yeah, I look at that as they take those same codes, and if you take those codes and you hit them over the head with it, it's like a pillow. But if they take those same codes and hit you over the head with it, it's going to hurt. 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to feel that pain. It's not for your benefit to utilize those against them. They already know exactly how to maneuver around them, and you don't. You know, that's going to be important, you know, moving forward to really understand what's going on. There's a whole nother side of this entire commerce, this entire financial system that you don't have access to. And until you get access to that, you will forever be playing checkers. And on a private side, they're playing chess. They already know what moves you're going to make because they know who you are. They also know what jurisdiction you're in. They see and know every move you're going to make before you even make it. The issue is you don't want them to know what move you're going to make. You want to have a strategy. There's no strategy as a U.S. citizen. There's no strategy that you can utilize in the public fiction. Strategy comes along with trust. Trust allows you to create a strategy to win. That means you control the securities. That means you control the outcome of that court case, if it's a court case.
With the right type of trust, though, because don't think you're going to be able to walk up in there with a statutory trust and try to get stuff done. You need something. You need something stronger. When you look at a statutory trust, not now, let me back up because the living soul is always going to need some sort of conduit, right? And let me also say this, because a lot of people may think that the SS individual is a bad thing to use. It's not bad when you know how to control it. It's literally just a conduit. It really is. It's just a conduit. Just a conduit. So you have to pick what vessel you're going to use as a conduit. Is either the SS individual or it can be a statutory trust. But when you're trying to deal with those more high level strategies, you got to be able to convert over to equity, and you can't do that using a statutory trust. You need something stronger. You need something that's going to hold the beneficial interest for the living soul, and that statutory trust is just not going to do it. It's not going to do it, because when they look at that, especially if it's like a revocable living trust, they're looking at that as the grantor settler still operating on behalf of himself, right? So you have to just know how to use the trust vessels, depending on your strategy. You just have to know what type of trust to use when and why and what its specific purpose is going to be in the matter. So we definitely have to know how trusts work. You got to know that, because those are getting into those advanced strategies. It can be a little bit tough if you don't really know what it is that you're doing. But the trusts are either way, you still need a trust. You'll need to have some sort of trust vessel in place that's going to help cloak the living soul when he or she is out there having to do commerce because they are in need of essential um, consumer goods, right? You still have to have a vessel. Still have to have a vessel. So this is some of the things that people should be really should. So we say all this to say is people really just got to sit down and put their strategy together. They got to pray over their paperwork. They got to pray to ask the Most High to show them how to do so. Because if you try to just depend on your own understanding, you're going to miss something. And that, whatever that thing is that you miss, it can be detrimental to the scenario. And you can't do this by yourself. You just can't. With all the information that we know and all the education that we've received and given over the years, I still don't walk around with an S on my chest. I prefer to not be the smartest person in the room. Seriously, this is not an ego thing. This is a team thing. This is a community thing. This is a trustee thing. We need to have competent people around us to make this work. We cannot do this by ourselves, period. You just can't, because the world is going to continue to pull on you. The people around you are going to pull you. Your family's going to pull you. The system is going to pull you. Got to do this as a team, and that's essentially why we're here. That's why we're here. So those people that are currently on TikTok, I think we got the Instagram going, right? I believe Instagram going. What you're going to want to do is make sure that you're sending messages. Like those of you that are on TikTok, you can probably either drop a comment or you can send a DM so that you can join the Telegram group that we got going on, right? You all are going to want to be in the Telegram group because we're going to be dropping a lot of resources and stuff, and going to be having conversations, and we're going to be doing live streams and all of this stuff. This is the first day of us kicking this group off, all right, in the way that we're doing it today, right? We're just going to get up here. We're going to have very candid discussions, talk about things and strategies, and have people ask questions. And we plan to do this pretty consistently, but y'all are going to want to plug in. So let me do this because I need to make sure that let me do this. I'm gonna drop. Let's see. How do we want to do this? Mikhail. If
What do
you're
you,
speaking, I hear you.
yeah,
We
what
need
do you
to, we
drop?
need to, right, we need to drop a, well, let me do this. The people that are on TikTok, if you're on TikTok, just send me a DM. I don't go live on TikTok very often, so I can't see where to put the comments. Wait, let me see. Just send me a DM. Just go ahead and send me a message right now to my DM. Let me see.
Yeah,
I
they
can,
can
I
just
can,
send a DM. Anybody
yeah,
wants to need the link for the Telegram group, just send a DM. Plain and simple. Just send a DM.
yeah.
You'll get the link. You'll be able to come in there. The information and knowledge that we have, you know, now over the years, we've accumulated a lot. We've been involved in a lot. You know,
Mhm.
we understand how these court cases are run and operated. We've been in the court cases. We've worked on court cases. We become seasoned, I guess you can say, but we still don't know everything. But we know about winning in court.
Mhm.
We know about winning in court. We know
Yeah,
the tools necessary to win when it comes to court. That's going to be very important as well. Um, and there's other information we're going to be sharing as well, because think about this. Think about this. If you ever bought a house, you signed paperwork at that closing. So if you signed paperwork at that closing, the lender placed you in a debtor position. Now, I went to school for accounting, and I know there's two sides to the ledger. So if they place me in a debtor position after the closing, I already know there's also a creditor position as well. So you walked away with the keys to the house along with the debt, but you abandoned the credit, because every time you create a debt, a credit is automatically created simultaneously. And the credit is to offset the debt. That's equity. That is what equity is. So let's say you had a home, $400,000 home. That was the loan, $400,000. That's the debt. The equity surpasses the debt, because the equity should always be able to swallow up the debt.
that's right.
So if it was a $400,000 mortgage loan, the equity is going to be at least $960,000, because it will swallow up the debt and you still have more equity on the table. If it was a car loan, let's say $24,000 car loan, you bought a car, or your children or somebody bought a car. You walked away with the car, but you also walked away with the debt. But you got to remember, there's a credit on the other side of that ledger. There's two sides to the ledger: debt, credit. So if you have that car loan of $24,000, the credit must surpass the debt to swallow it up. So you're looking at $57,000 on the credit side that you walked away from, that would have swallowed up the debt, and you still had more credit on the table. So this is a type of information that has not been shared with families. It's definitely not going to be found on social media anywhere. This is why you cannot get ahead financially, and you keep running into a brick wall thinking that you're going to use their own rules and regulations against them. You're not winning. And
They don't
that
master.
you are a minor, an incompetent minor. You can be 60
Yeah,
years old and still be an incompetent minor
and a debtor.
and a debtor.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. When you study the beneficial owner position, just know that the beneficial owner is very powerful, very much so. Uh, Attorneys loathe the beneficial owner position because, like what Mikhail just said, it swallows up everything. It literally swallows up everything that it touches. Think about scripture. Scripture says, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. That's what the beneficial owner position does. It swallows up everything it touches. And so there is no higher claim than that of the beneficial owner in a matter. Now, you can't just say in your paperwork that you're the beneficial owner. You can't just do it straight like that. You have to, there are a lot of prerequisites to that position. And you want to make sure that you have the proper paperwork in place to be able to assert that position. Whatever it is that you're asserting in your paperwork, it has to be 100% substantiated in any prior acts or things that you would have done to establish that position. So you can't just come from scratch in the first document and be like, I'm the beneficial owner. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to establish your standing and capacity first, and that is done by other paperwork that precedes your case or precedes the matter that establishes your position as beneficial owner acting in trust capacity, right? But that beneficial owner is very, very powerful. It will swallow up the lower legal title. Coming with a higher claim, it's going to absorb it and extinguish it. You just have to know how to position yourself to do that. So there are some serious strategic maneuvers that you can do if you have your paperwork in place the right way. There's a lot that you can do. There really is a lot that you can do. But like I said, you just really got to know how to put it together. Got to know how to put it together. And so we're going to be getting into some things. And you already know that, there's certain things that we will say on these calls, but there's a lot that we just simply cannot and will not say. Those conversations are reserved for in-network participants, right? So just keep that in mind. But please, by all means, bring your questions to any subsequent live stream that we do. Now, here's the thing. Somebody on TikTok just said they cannot make rules inconsistent with the Constitution. Mikhail, did you want to address that?
They cannot make rules inconsistent with the Constitution.
Yeah.
Listen, what's going to be most important is not focused on what they're doing or not doing. The question remains, what are you doing? What do you know? And trust technology supersedes all of that. Everything that they're doing, it doesn't matter. You have to step into that position, into that office, into that title. You have to operate from a trust perspective. And then it doesn't matter what they're doing or what they're not doing. And that's why people who say statements like that have not won. They have not overcome. You have to operate in trust.
Yeah, right. You do have to operate in trust, but also when you're dealing with the Constitution and these other legislative documents that have been placed on the record, there's a certain thing that you have to do. Oh man, there's some stuff I want to say. I'm sorry, y'all. I was about to go somewhere and the spirit was like, nope. But listen, just know this. When you're dealing with these legislative documents, there are some things that you have to do to compel them. How can I say this? I'm saying too much. There are some things that you have to do to compel them to adhere to the terms of those documents. Let me just say it that way. Okay. And everything is done by utilizing trust technology. And I'll just leave it there. I'll
Yeah.
just leave
So
it there.
you know, when you make certain statements, like you point fingers at them, like, hey, they can't do this and they can't do that. Well, that means in their jurisdiction, if they did it and they got away with it, it's because it's their jurisdiction. You have to understand that you have to come from a higher authority, a higher jurisdiction to trump whatever it is they're trying to do.
Yes.
If you do not come from a higher authority, you cannot overcome your enemy. That is your adversary. You know.
And it ain't just saying that I'm the real man or woman either. No, that ain't it.
No,
a lot of people fall in that trap.
Yeah, it's deeper than that.
It's much deeper. It's deeper. We can't go with the same old menial arguments that people have been doing for the last 10+ years. It has to be deeper. You got to do this in a way where you are eliminating their ability to move forward on the issue, because what you have presented is so compelling that if they move forward, it's an automatic breach of trust. Automatic, no question. Okay. And it takes a lot to put that together, but it can be done, and it has been done over and over and over, and it will continue to be done. That positioning is key. Now, we got to be careful out here these days, because of what's going on in the political arena, with asserting yourself from a certain perspective, especially from a non-United States citizen perspective. And this is why trust technology is so important, because you have to be insulated and protected. You got to protect yourself above anything that you do. You got to have that protection in place. You have to. It's required. You got to be insulated enough to where if you do something or you make a strong move that strengthens your position, that they can't touch you. That's key. And I think a lot of people are missing that. I know they're missing that because people are getting deported, people are being thrown in jail, people are being detained. All of these things that are plaguing our communities right now is because people do not have the proper capacity nor positioning to protect themselves, right? And I know what's happening. People being profiled, pulled over, whatever the case may be, because they're not utilizing trust technology. They're just doing things and thinking that because they have a strong statutory argument that that's going to protect them. That is not protection. That's not protection. That's a Band-Aid. It's not protection, So, this is what we have to think about. We got to come stronger, higher. Paperwork has to be complete, all the way down to the type of paper that you use, folks. This is some serious stuff. You doing your paperwork on 8.5 by 11? What? That alone speaks volumes, right? And I'm not talking about just switching over to legal paper either. All the way down to the type of paper that you use matters. So, it's a lot to think about. So what do you think, Mikhail? When are we going to be able to do this again for the people?
Well, does anybody have any questions this evening? How about that? Does anybody have a question? You're working on something, you're trying to figure out what your next step is. Don't be shy. If you got a question, you're working on something, not sure what you got, don't know if it's going to work or not, now's an opportunity to definitely, have a little quick discussion on it. See if you're moving in the right direction.
Yes.
Because the next time that we go live, we're going to, you'll see it in the group. We'll post in the group, day or two in advance that we're going to be going live on whatever day, so you'll know in advance when it's going to happen. But, you know, we want to kind of help you move in the right direction. If you got documents, paperwork, you're trying to figure something out, you know, this is a golden opportunity for someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, we can definitely talk about it. Someone on TikTok says, yeah, I'm having a hard time with establishing my foreign private status. Foreign private status. I understand where you're coming from, because a lot of people try to go foreign national to assert that they are not a part of the U.S. territory. I understand that. Now, when you say that you're having a hard time, I don't know exactly what that means, because you don't have to ask for permission to establish a status. And that is another trap that people fall into. They submit this paperwork, and they submit paperwork to all of these different agencies and asking for acknowledgement and recognition of a status. And we don't have to ask for their permission. And see, when I spoke earlier about you removing their ability to place a legal determination on your paperwork, that's what I mean. You're not asking for a permission. You have to remove their ability to adjudicate your paperwork. So when you submit or you establish your paperwork, and you do that utilizing trust technology, you are literally writing your own laws. You're writing your indenture that then become law, because you have placed the necessary, I'll just say, authentications on your paperwork. And I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about the state authentication, no, or the federal authentication. No, I'm not talking about that. All right. I'm talking about removing their ability to adjudicate. So when you say to me that you're having a problem, that tells me that you know, there's a failure to understand that you don't need their permission to establish a status. All right. Let's see. Okay, someone's talking about the Constitution and Article 8. Now, you got to deal with those legislative documents a certain way. And I mentioned that earlier. There's something that you have to do to get them to adhere to those terms. Right? Okay, so let me see. Someone else says, no, I meant pre-colonial. Okay, so essentially what I'm gathering is that you're saying that, and this is on TikTok, everyone, that you are having a problem establishing your foreign private status pre-colonial. Am I understanding that right? Okay, pre-colonial. Now, I understand what you're saying, and I understand the reason why you need to do that. Trust me, I do. But you should not have a problem doing that. Put together your paperwork, and you remove the requirement for them to adjudicate that to where it just simply is. Whatever you write, it just becomes trust law, just like that. All right. So you have to figure out how to not ask for permission, because from what I'm seeing based on your comments, that's the underlying issue. All right. Now, someone said, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mikhail.
Well, no, I was just kind of reiterating what you were saying as well, because there are many of us out here who do not ask for permission. If I don't ask for permission from a jurisdiction, a court to change my name, I do not ask for permission from any U.S. agency. If I want to protect my name, the SS name, I don't ask for permission to do that. So when you are completing documents to get permission from the enemy to give you this authority, that's not the right perspective. You have to go above the enemy's head in order to get your authority. And when you do that, that means you are stepping out of this jurisdiction into a higher jurisdiction. When that takes place, you can now step down into this jurisdiction with all power and all authority.
Which is superpower.
That's what you want. But people have not figured that out yet. People don't know what that looks like yet. So all they have is the Constitution, article this, article that, the codes.
Yep.
And you're getting pushed around and you're going around in circles chasing your tail, and you're not getting the satisfaction you thought you would. You're not getting the remedy that you're looking for. And they're not going to tell you why. You don't have status. You don't know how to get the status that takes you out of their system, separates you from that system, and also separates you from the debtor position, the SS name. That's what we're talking about here. That's going to be very important for you to grasp in order to get the remedy you're looking for.
Right. And here's another thing. So somebody in the comment section on TikTok says, license is permission, marriage, driver's license, attorneys, etc. Okay, I hear what you're saying. But let me say this. You have to know how to repurpose those licenses, and you have to know how to control them the same way that you control the SS individual. The marriage license, the driver's license, attorney. Now, attorneys are different because those are more of that's like a public or court. What's the word I'm looking for? Those are public licensed fiduciaries. So the attorney's license is a little bit different than an individual obtaining a driver's license or a marriage license or like a concealed carry license, right? There are some things that you need to do to control those things to where it benefits you and it's not utilized to place some sort of statutory authority over the living soul. So you may have a driver's license, but are you controlling that license utilizing trusted technology so that when you get pulled over, you can automatically assert that, okay, my mind just went a million miles an hour. Some of this stuff, y'all just got to come in because you just got to come in. Don't look at having a driver's license as them having any authority over you. That's not what that means if you control it the right way. And I'll just leave it at that. Let me see what else.
Yeah, because you can, the thing about it is, you can control whatever it is you want to control if you have the right documentation in place. So every account you can control. The courts, you can definitely control that. Listen, I don't know, who understands chess, but when I think about controlling court, I think about a chess match. I have all my pieces on the board, but I decide how many pieces the court gets to put on the board. So if I only want them to put 4 pieces on there, 3 pawns and a king, that's all they get. Do you think they're really going to win with 3 pawns and a king and I got all my pieces? Rooks, bishops, queens, pawns, everything? No. That's where you want to have them.
Yes.
And if they do decide, oh, we're going to call your SS into court, they've committed fraud right there. Immediately committed fraud.
Yep.
Immediately committed fraud.
It's automatic. It is automatic, And part of the reason why I love the space that we're in is because I don't know if you knew, I took a journey to learn consumer law. It's a lot. It really is a lot. And so when you are burdened with having to know all of their laws, their codes, and their statutes. It's like an uphill battle. It's almost like you'll never get there. You would literally have to be studying for years and years on end in order to learn that stuff. It's a lot, and legalese is they write it in such a way where you're not supposed to be able to understand it, right? But many people do. They do have successes on the public side using it. We're not saying that people do not have what they consider to be success, but when you're on the battlefield, you can't use the enemy's weapons against themselves, right?
Yeah, don't hurt them.
Yeah.
It don't work like that.
And I can almost guarantee you that there's not going to be any single case that is going to collapse the system based on the argument of fraud. And that's where a lot of people get messed up too, is they want to immediately lead with, oh, this is fraud. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but this is how the system is set up. And so what you can look at as fraudulent to them is perfectly legal. So you have to think of another way to do this. It's not, you can't always lead with that fraudulent argument. It's not gonna work
I see someone said I need to see some evidence of people controlling these things they don't own. So like a driver's license, I think about that. That crossed my mind. And people say, well, you don't own that driver's license. Well, I control that driver's license. Now, say for instance, someone is pulled over and they write them a ticket. Oh, now it's a court case. One thing that I know is that if I want to collect on that court case, I know the minimum I can collect is $250K. Well, yeah, minimum. Yeah, you can write me a ticket, but I'm going to be collecting $250K, and I call that a win.
I mean, yeah. But a lot of people, oh my goodness. So don't be arguing with the police officer on the side of the road talking about I'm driving it. So no, that's not the I want to be.
Yeah, just get the
let them write the ticket. Just let them write it. You can do what you gotta do with it. And the value that's on the other side. Don't be listen, y'all. Make it home. To make it home. The green scripture says, agree with my area.
You're going in and out.
Ticket. Take and take it home. Take it home. You have to back in.
You're going out. Matrix there.
So I'm going now. I think it's my signal. It might be a signal. It's my signal. I know that they can still hear TikTok, right? It's the signal on the computer. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, can you all still hear me?
I think that's a little bit better on here.
Yes, it's just a signal. Oh yeah. But yeah, what's helpful for you all? Okay. My signal's definitely going in and out. Was this helpful to everyone? I really do hope that it was, and that's what we're here for. I don't know how to schedule a live stream on TikTok. I don't even know if that's even a thing. I'll look into it to see if you can do pre-notifications. I'm not sure. But for those of you that joined the live on TikTok, thank you so very much for your time. Just send me a DM. And for those of you that are on Telegram, we appreciate your time as well. Mikhail, did you have any final thoughts before we close?
No, everybody just look forward to our next call, because we're going to be sharing a lot of different information. Some, most of it you haven't heard. You haven't been exposed to. But we're going to be looking for those who have questions about I did this, my situation looks like that, and I might be going to jail. What can I do? We talked to a lot of people that came to us with their paperwork, and now they're in jail because they listened to the wrong person, and we don't want that to happen to anyone else. And so if there's something we can do to prevent that, then definitely come on the call and let's talk about it. Let's come up with a plan where you don't end up in jail, because you might have a family to take care of. We don't know. And I wouldn't want you to have to relocate from one state to another, and people are doing that.
That has actually happened. We know, oh my goodness, on the run, because they did a process from some guru at a dealership, at a car dealership. It's crazy out here. People, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this was fun. This was definitely fun. I definitely plan on being more active on TikTok for sure. So yeah, y'all just stay tuned in. Watch the accounts on TikTok. Just watch them. We'll try to get pre-notification. For those of you that are on Telegram, we will notify you in advance of when we're going live. Just stay connected. We just ask that you all stay connected and just engage with us, send us messages, and we're going to continue the discussions. All right, so we hope that this was helpful. Thank you all for taking the time out this evening, and we will see you on the next one.